All right, guys, I'm here with a client of mine, Tabitha, who just finished Female Athlete System of Transformation. We really wanted to share her story and some things that she's been through and some things that she's learned. She's got a really awesome story. Actually, I'll start with a funny story of how we met. Do you mind?
No, not at all.
We actually met because she watched my dog for me, where she's local to where I live, and she watched my dog for me. And then we, liked each other. So we grabbed dinner together and we got to talking about what we do for a living. And I told her I was a dietitian and I help athletes overcome disordered eating. Something kind of clicked, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments where I was like, everything happens for a reason. Like I needed to meet Lindsay. So yeah.
Yeah. So bring me back to that moment. We just met casually, but what motivated you to think seriously about working with me?
Honestly, I have been struggling with my relationship with foods. And I mean, like, if I really think back, like it's been since forever, but I had a pretty significant eating disorder through high school and college. And I just like meeting you and talking to you, I just, for some reason, was just drawn to the program and kind of how you explain things. And I knew that it was a program that I really wanted to participate in because after like 17, 18 years of trying alternative options to really get to a better place with my relationship with food, I hadn't found anything that worked yet. It needed to happen. So yeah.
17, 18 years.
Yeah, I realized that not long ago. It was a long time.
Yeah. So that was high school time?
Yeah. And I can pretty distinctly remember the first time that I would just say the first time I ever purged, I can remember it very, very clearly. And it was my sophomore year of high school. And that was 2002. And it's 2020. It's been a really long time.
I guess give a more clear picture if you don't mind. I think that when it comes to disordered eating behaviors, it's very personal, it's very secretive, and it's really, really hard to talk about.
Yeah.
But just to kind of say it out there for people who might be watching so that they know they're not alone. What happened throughout those 17, 18 years? Like what were a few of the things that you were doing?
So it was like a combination of things. There was like excessive exercising, and my exercise for a number of years was specifically, I need to burn calories. It was binging and purging. It was using laxatives. It was restricting certain foods that I just felt like, oh my goodness, if I have this, like this isn't the type of food that I should be having, and things along those lines. Eating around people was just gut wrenching. Like I was conscious of every single food choice that I made, and I would be aware of what other people I was with were eating and how much they ate, and just was consumed in food. So kind of a wide variety of different inappropriate or non-ideal, I guess, habits in relation to food and caloric expenditure. So,
and throughout those years, had you tried in any way to get help or to change those behaviors?
Yeah, a little bit of details. I was a collegiate gymnast, and my gymnastics coach, I showed up for practice one day, and to my surprise, there was a therapist there, and my parents had been brought in from out of town, and they had tried to kind of put me through kind of meeting with her. And unfortunately, it wasn't very successful. I've tried a variety of different things. Unfortunately, they didn't lead to me having a better relationship with food. And quite honestly, several of the things that I had tried only made things worse.
I know it's still hard to talk about. So I
Yeah.
think thank you so much for talking about this. So you tried other things in the past.
Yeah.
And also here's another interesting fun fact about Tabitha. You have a degree in nutrition.
Yeah. And so it's actually pretty interesting. So I kind of mentioned I've spoken with other therapists, and my degree is in health and nutrition. And so I'm pretty well educated on exercise and eating right. But honestly, what I have found previously before I found your program, essentially what would happen was all of the things that I learned were used more as a weapon against myself as opposed to a tool to develop a better relationship with food and to be healthier. So I'm very well educated on the topic, but unfortunately it took a number of years and trying different options and finally going through your program to learn to utilize food and nutrition as a tool to kind of be as healthy as I can be, as opposed to using the knowledge that I had as a way to kind of punish myself almost, or as a way to be better at having an eating disorder, which is kind of crazy, but that's where it was.
No, it's so true. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because a lot of the clients that I have, yourself included, and a lot of people I talk to that are, struggling with this on a daily basis, they do know a lot about nutrition. Some, like, a lot.
Yeah.
I'm Like you could all be mini dietitians someday. But it's not about the information. It's about the transformation that you have to make. And so let's just talk about that. Let's talk about your transformation. Let's just kind of fast forward. You've been struggling with disordered eating for 17, 18 years. You tried to get help in the past, didn't really work. And then you signed up with me, and now what?
I know that I've like expressed this to you. It has been mind blowing. And like, even just thinking about it almost makes me emotional because like I've said, I have struggled with this for so long, and I can think back on some of the things, like the ways that I would hide it, the ways that I would go about purging or restrictive eating or excessive exercise. Even if I had a week where I didn't purge or something like that happened, I always had the urge. And in the past, whenever I had tried to resist the urge to purge, and you and I have talked about this, it was torturous. Like I can literally remember sitting on my bathroom floor, like pulling just like handfuls of hair and like literally leaning back and hitting my head against the wall because I felt like it was torture to not purge after eating. I mean, we started in October. Mm-hmm. It's amazing because I haven't purged since then. And that's the longest since I was in 17, 18 years, that's the longest it's ever been. And there was never a point where I was like, oh my gosh, this is torturing me. Just the way that your program was set up, I feel like it really changed my mentality as far as the way that I was seeing nutrition and kind of food as a whole.
I just want to reiterate that too, like a huge transformation. But yeah, we started working the first week of October, and it's the end of January right now. So whatever, 12-week program plus a couple weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is the longest in your life you've been without binging or purging.
Yeah. And since it started 18 years ago, this is the longest it's been.
And do you feel confident moving forward? I know this is another hesitancy of a lot of people, is like, well, what about after the 12 weeks? How do you feel moving forward on your own?
I feel incredibly confident because we've gone over so many different things. And again, I have a degree in nutrition. I understand the way the body works. I understand how food is, but through the process and working through the different modules and speaking with you, I feel just the way that I view food has changed drastically. So I'm really confident in going forward and being able to like maintain the better relationship that I've been able to develop.
Did you ever resonate with having an eating disorder? Just that term, like how does that settle with you? Did you identify as somebody with an eating disorder?
In my mind, yes, sort of. No.
Yes, sort of no.
I feel like I spent a number of years when I was in high school and college and in gymnastics and super fit. My mentality was always, I'm in control. This isn't a problem for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes I purge, but it's because I want to. But it was never, I didn't really feel like I had an eating disorder. I felt like I just sometimes chose that I wanted to eat unhealthy food, but then I didn't want the repercussions of that. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like as I got older and I wasn't as athletic anymore and I had gained a little bit of weight, I was like, I can't have an eating disorder. Like you can't gain weight while you have an eating disorder. So I feel like sometimes I sort of would acknowledge that it was an eating disorder. Sometimes I wouldn't. Looking back now, it was really bad. And I 100% had an eating disorder. I don't know. I feel like that was a weird answer to that question, but it's...
Yeah, well, yes, in hindsight, looking back, you're like, yeah, that's an eating disorder. But in that moment, you felt like you were in control or parts of you were still in denial.
Yeah, even like whenever we first started talking and you kind of asked me questions, like to actually have to verbally say it was just really difficult. And I mean, I'm sure you remember, I just cried. I could barely get the words out.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people do struggle with that. Just like, you have some people that are always in denial and therefore never get the help they need. And then there's also the other side of people who acknowledge that they have an eating disorder, but unfortunately like embody it and make it part of their identity, which is also not helpful in the healing process because you need to know that you can disassociate yourself in eating disorder. And so maybe just as a final question, like, do you now at this point, what's your viewpoint on like, do you associate yourself with an eating disorder right now, the Tabitha that we're talking to today?
No, now I don't. Now I can look at it and say I had an eating disorder and it was pretty severe, but now I have a healthy relationship with food and I give my body what it needs. And if I get hungry during the day, I'm going to eat, whether it's the right time for me to be hungry or not. I just give my body what it needs now.
You were a gymnast in high school, kind of when things started. Now, what do you do for exercise now?
Yeah, so I do Orange Theory fitness, which I really like. I also do like some at-home workouts or like go for a run or like go ride the bike and things like that. So now I was a gymnast in high school. I did gymnastics in college. I was definitely an athlete back then. I haven't considered myself an athlete in a number of years, but I am still active. But I definitely don't think that I'm an athlete at this point,
Yeah.
but I am still active.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring that up just because, I always say that I help athletes overcome disordered eating. And I felt like when we started working together, you were like, well, I'm not an athlete. I just do Orange Theory. And I was like, but you are an athlete because you were a really, really good gymnast. Like really good at a high level, and you've got that mentality and you've got that that muscle memory and that drive and that you got it all. So you got the athlete mentality. And I knew too, as we started learning about you too, you don't just go to the gym, you work hard at the gym. And so it kind of had to remind you of that and remind you that you are the exact type of person that this program is meant for. Tabitha, here's another interesting thing about when we signed up and when you signed up with me and we started working together. You actually really wanted weight loss, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But what I'm hearing you say now is the big transformation you've had is improving your relationship with food. But initially you didn't even really necessarily want to improve your relationship with food. You just wanted weight loss, right?
Honestly, I wanted weight loss because in my mind, if I lost weight, my relationship with food would get better, which really doesn't make sense because when I was an athlete and I had a six-pack and was in the best shape of my life, I still didn't have a good relationship with food. So yeah, it did kind of start off that way a little bit. And then through working with you and kind of going through the program, was able to develop a healthy relationship with food and get to a place where I can understand how to properly fuel my body and honestly how to just love myself and what I do. But then also know that health is an important factor as well. So
yeah. And I think that's really important too, because a lot of people, still might have weight goals, whether it's for health or for performance. And as much as improving that relationship with food is important, it's well, weight is still something we can address, but it's kind of you kept trying to achieve weight loss and you were never going to reach it because you had such an unhealthy, unstable relationship with food. And so once we fix that first, now could be a more appropriate time to attack that from a health perspective.
Absolutely. And I think you and I have actually talked about this as well. But I think without the program, I think if I would have just done whatever program to lose weight, at the end of it, even if I achieved my goal, I wouldn't have been able to resolve the underlying issues. And I don't think that I would have ever achieved a place where I was happy and confident in myself. So I think that you're spot on going through this part of it first and really improving and healing my relationship that I have with food first has put me in a place where I can be successful of getting to a healthy place and having some weight loss, but doing it in a healthy way.
And so what advice would you have to other people, whether they're the version of yourself now, or maybe that younger version of yourself that struggled for so many years? If anybody watching this video resonates with things that you've been through, what advice would you have for them or things you would like to tell them?
I guess for me, I was an athlete. I don't consider myself an athlete at this point. Yes, I do want to lose some weight. I think that it would be a healthy option for me to do that. But I think my biggest piece of advice is first and foremost to trust you and your program. Like we've talked about a little bit, I'm educated on the topic of health. I'm educated on nutrition, and even me being educated, me working with other therapists in the past, I wasn't able to get to a place where I had a healthy relationship with food. So first and foremost, it would be to trust you and your program. Secondly, make yourself a priority and understand that if you get to a place where you have a healthy relationship with food, it can change so many things about your life. I feel like I'm just a happier person all around than I was at the beginning of October before we started working together.
Well, Tabitha, you've been an amazing client. You're a wonderful, beautiful person. And I'm so proud of all of your progress and really just proud of where you are now and excited for your future.
Yeah. And I mean, I know it's probably implied, but I don't know if I've ever formally said thank you because I feel like you've really drastically improved my life. And so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
So, sorry, I'm going to cry again.
I know, emotional topics.
Yes. But
No,
honestly.
so actually, just one more big thank you. Thank you for doing this video to share with other people, because I can guarantee you there are other people out there that will watch this and now know that they're not alone and that they can change and that they can get help. And that's all thanks to you.
Well, thank you. And thanks to you.